Passion for worship, 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 passion for worship.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Anbiya'i wal Mursaleen. Amma ba'd, fa'a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. As-salatu wassalamu alayka ya Rasulallah. As-salatu wassalamu alayka ya Habiballah. As-salatu wassalamu alayka ya Nabiyallah. Wa ala alika wa ashabika ya Nur Allah. My dear viewers of Madani Channel, welcome to our series, Passion for Worship. In this series, we will be talking about different acts of worship we can do, and inshallah Azza wa Jal, we will be trying to increase our passion for performing these acts of worship. Now, before starting today's episode, acting upon the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Niyatul mu'mini khayrun min amali. The intention of a believer is better than his action. Let's make some good intentions. Inshallah Azza wa Jal, I will do this episode for the pleasure of Allah Azza wa Jal. You also make this intention that you will watch from beginning to end for the pleasure of Allah Azza wa Jal. And whatever we learn today, we will try to act upon that and try to pass that on to other people as well. Inshallah Azza wa Jal. The Prophet of Rahmah, the intercessor of the Ummah, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, has said, Man salla alayya fi yawmin alfa marratin lam yamut hatta yara maq'adahu min al-jannah. Translation: whoever recites salat upon me 1,000 times daily, he shall not die until he sees his place in heaven. Subhanallah, my dear viewers of Madani Channel, we should all make it a habit to recite Darood and Salawat upon the beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in abundance. Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The title for today's topic is Obedience of Allah Azza wa Jal and His beloved Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, what is obedience of Allah Azza wa Jal and His beloved Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam? In simple terms, obedience of Allah Azza wa Jal and the beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is to do those actions which they have commanded, like praying salah 5 times a day, like fasting in the month of Ramadan, like performing the Hajj, like giving in charity the zakat. And it is also to refrain from those things which Allah Azza wa Jal and the beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has told us to stay away from, like backbiting, lying, stealing, and so on. The obedience of Allah Azza wa Jal and the beloved Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam has been mentioned in the glorious Quran and in a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam as well. It is mentioned in verse 1 of Surah Al-Anfal, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. وَأَتِيُوا اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ إِن كُنتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ. Translation from Kanzul Iman: and obey Allah Azza wa Jal and His noble Rasul if you have faith. It is reported in the blessed hadith of the beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he sallallahu alaihi wasallam is reported to have said, Man ata'ani dakhala al-jannah wa man asani faqad aba. Translation: one who follows my commandment will enter paradise, and one who disobeys me will be the one who denies. In another narration it is mentioned, the beloved Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said, none amongst you can become a true believer until his desire becomes subservient to what I have brought. From this, my dear viewers of Madani Channel, we see the importance that is placed upon the obedience of Allah Azza wa Jal and the obedience of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam for us as Muslims today. Mufti Ahmad Yar Khan Naimi rahmatullahi ta'ala alayh, he has mentioned what is the difference between the obedience of Allah Azza wa Jal and the obedience of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He rahmatullahi ta'ala alayh mentions that Allah Azza wa Jal is obeyed only in His commandments but not in His acts. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam must be obeyed in three things. Those acts which were performed by him sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Number two, in his mentioned sayings sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And number three, those acts which were performed in front of the beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he did not tell the person off. He, rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi, further goes on to say, the commandment of obedience of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam should not be considered that if the beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is not obeyed, that it is the loss of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. No, rather the disobedience of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is our loss. Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, the humans have been created with two parts or two types of body parts. Number one, the external, like the lips, the ears, the eyes and the nose. And the other body parts that are internal, which are considered like the brain and the heart. Now, both of these different types are interlinked. They have an intrinsic effect upon each other. The internal affects the external, and the external affects the internal as well. The obedience of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is an external manifestation of the love which we have for him sallallahu alaihi wasallam internally. The more you would love Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam internally, the more you would be obedient to him externally. And I'll give you an analogy for you to help us all understand. The emotion of sadness or happiness or anger, these emotions are internal. We feel these in our heart or in our brain, but we feel them internally. But the effects of these manifest on our external. When we are sad, we can see it on our face. When we are angry, it can also be seen on our face. And when we are happy, the people around us can see that that emotion of happiness which is internal to us is manifesting through a smile or some other form on our face. From this we can see that the internal state does have an effect on the external. And the Muslims around the world, we should all increase in our love for the beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam internally, and ultimately that will affect the obedience that we have to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam externally. The Muslims, we should have love for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam internally in our heart. And if we do have this love for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in our heart, it should manifest on our external. It should manifest with the beard. The love of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam should manifest on the hijab. The love of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam should manifest upon us on our external appearance of modest clothing. The love that we have internally for the beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam should manifest externally by us following his commands. People should be able to see our external and see that we are lovers of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is the link the internal has with the external. And vice versa as well. The external affects the internal as well. I'll give you another analogy. When certain diseases are found within a person, like depression or TB or other illnesses which affect the internal of a human, the doctors sometimes give that individual a cure which is on the face of it external. Like they would say, make sure you clean yourself with certain types of waters. Or they would say to make sure you sit in a place where the air is fresh and clean, or to make sure you sit in a clean and fresh environment. What is this? This is the external factors around that individual, the external cleanliness that is around that individual affecting the internal disease which is found within that person. In the same way, if externally we start to do those things which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has commanded us to do, by keeping a beard, by adorning the hijab for our sisters, and by dressing modestly, by reciting the glorious Quran, by performing our daily salah, by giving away in zakat, by performing the hajj, and staying away from those things which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has told us to stay away from, like drinking alcohol, like gambling, like swearing, like lying, like backbiting. If we externally do all of these things, the effect of this external action of ours will be that ultimately internally we will start to fall in love with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We will start to fall in love with performing those actions which we are supposed to be doing. We will start to find hatred in our heart for those actions which we are not supposed to be doing and those actions which we are supposed to stay away from. In this way, there is an intrinsic link between the internal of a human and the external, and obedience of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam internally is the love of him sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which manifests externally through obeying the commands that he sallallahu alaihi wasallam has brought. May Allah Azza wa Jal give all of us the ability to truly love him sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and for this to manifest externally for all of us as well, insha'Allah Azza wa Jal. Now, if we want to be obedient to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the main way we can do this is by increasing in our love for him sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But how do we increase in our love for the beloved Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam? There are a few different ways we can increase our love for the beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Number one, we could learn about the blessed life of the beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because the more we know about him sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the more we will be able to follow him. The more we know about the events which occurred in the life of the beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the more we will fall in love with him. And the more we fall in love with him, the more we will obey him and the more we will follow his commands. Another way we can increase in our love and recognition for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is by studying the blessed characteristics, the blessed shama'il of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because the more we learn about the blessed features of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the more we learn about the blessed appearance of the beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the more we learn about the blessed manners of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the more we will fall in love with him sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the more we fall in love with him, like we have mentioned previously, the internal love will manifest on the external. Because the more we love him sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the more obedient we will be to him sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The more obedient we are, the more success we will have in this life. The more obedient we are to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that will give us true success in this world and in the hereafter. May Allah Azza wa Jal make us all obedient to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, my dear viewers of Madani Channel, I want to share some examples of the blessed companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and how their obedience was for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because for us, the shining stars, the crowns on our heads, those who we look for inspiration, those who we look to as examples and guides, the blessed companions radiyallahu ta'ala anhum, have shown us how to be obedient to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It is reported Sayyidatuna Darda radiyallahu ta'ala anha has said that whenever Sayyiduna Abu Darda radiyallahu ta'ala anhu spoke, he would smile. I humbly said, leave this habit, otherwise people will start thinking of you as a fool. Sayyiduna Abu Darda radiyallahu ta'ala anhu then said, whenever I saw or heard the beloved and blessed Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam speak, he would be smiling. Then hence, acting upon this sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I also smile when I speak. In another narration, Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma has narrated, the beloved and blessed Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam once saw a person who was wearing a gold ring. Removing that ring, he sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, does anyone keep a flame in his hand? After the greatest and holiest Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam had left, someone said to that person, pick up your ring and use it in some other way instead of wearing it. He said, by Allah, I will never take it, while the beloved and blessed Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has thrown it away. In another incident, with one of the blessed companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it is reported that Hazrat Rabi'a Aslami radiyallahu ta'ala anhu has narrated that I had the privilege of serving the beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. One day, the beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, O Rabi'a, why don't you get married? I humbly said, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I do not want to get married because I do not have sufficient wealth to fulfill the needs of a woman. And secondly, I do not like anything to distract me from you, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam avoided me, and I continued to serve him. After some time, he sallallahu alaihi wasallam again said, Rabi'a, why don't you get married? Hazrat Rabi'a radiallahu ta'ala anhu mentions, I humbly said, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I do not want to get married, as I do not have sufficient wealth to fulfill the needs of a woman. And secondly, I do not like anything to distract me from you. The beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam avoided me. But then I thought that the beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam knows what is better for me in this world and in the hereafter. Now, if the beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says this to me, I will say, okay, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, order me whatever you want. The third time, when the beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Rabi'a, why don't you get married? Hazrat Rabi'a mentions, I humbly said, why not? The Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then naming a tribe of the Ansar, told me to go to them and tell them, the beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has sent me to get married with so-and-so woman. I went and conveyed the message of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to them. That tribe gave me a warm welcome and started saying, the messenger of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam should not return without carrying out his task. Then they performed my nikah with that woman and treated me kindly and did not even ask for any evidence. Subhanallah, my dear viewers of Madani Channel, from these few examples from the lives of the blessed companions radiallahu ta'ala anhum, we see the amazing level of obedience they had for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Anything the beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would command them to do, they would do without hesitation. And anything the beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had warned them against, they were steadfast upon staying away from that. Now, my dear viewers of Madani Channel, I want to mention a few commands of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam for me and you, and a few things which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has told us to stay away from. But before we do this, I want all of you to think about yourselves and reflect, whilst we are going through these narrations, how many of these narrations or commands of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam do me and you as individuals act upon and follow? And how many of these warnings which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he has told us to stay away from, how many of those warnings have we heeded, and how many of those things do we refrain from? Now, inshallah, I will think about myself while I'm reading these narrations, and I want you to think individually about yourselves as well. And while we are going through these narrations, make a firm intention that you will try to follow these commands of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and make a firm intention those things which are mentioned that we should be staying away from, that inshallah azza wa jal, you will try your best to stay away from those things as well, being obedient to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It is reported, the beloved and blessed Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said, the most favorite act to Allah azza wa jal is to offer salah on its stipulated time and to perform virtuous deeds with parents. Subhanallah. Now just ponder over this. The most favorite act to Allah Azza wa Jal is to offer salah on its stipulated time. How many of us actually offer our salah on time? Around the world we see Muslims neglectful of the daily prayer. Unfortunately, we see at the time of Fajr, the Muslims are asleep. At the time of Zuhr and Asr, the Muslims are busy in their worldly life, whether that is school, college, university, or work, or any other thing. The Muslims are seen during these two prayer times to be busy in the world, neglecting these prayers. And then at the time of Maghrib, we see that the Muslims are busy in other social activities or traveling back from wherever they have spent the day. And then at the time of Isha, we see that the Muslims are again either spending family time or they're too tired to perform their salah and they are asleep. My dear viewers of Madani Channel, acting upon this command of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, make this firm intention that we will all perform our salah on time and we will never miss our salah. And any prayers which you may have missed in the past, make the intention that you will make them up. In another narration, it is mentioned, the most favorite act to Allah Azza wa Jal after the fara'id is to enter happiness into the heart of an Islamic brother. My dear viewers of Madani Channel, ponder over this. How many of us actually go around and spread happiness for our fellow Muslims? How many of us instill happiness into the hearts of our fellow believers? Unfortunately, we live in a society where instead of spreading happiness into hearts of the believers, we are increasing in their pain and increasing in their sadness. With our words, we are targeting them, we are insulting people, and we are increasing in the sorrow and sadness that they feel. But in this blessed hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, we are being told that the most favorite act to Allah Azza wa Jal after the fara'id is to enter happiness into the hearts of the believers. Inshallah, make the intention that we will try to spread happiness to our fellow believers. My dear viewers of Madani Channel, reflect again. How are our manners? How are our behaviors? Do our manners and behaviors reflect that which the beloved Prophet ﷺ has taught us? Do our behaviors and manners reflect how the beloved Prophet ﷺ would behave with other people? My dear viewers of Madani Channel, make this intention to learn about how the beloved Prophet ﷺ would behave with society, how the beloved Prophet ﷺ would behave with members of his household, and try to adopt that characteristic of the Prophet ﷺ and the blessed character of the Prophet ﷺ in your lives and our lives, and try to spread happiness to our family members as well. Now, one of the warnings of Rasulullah ﷺ for those things which we are told to stay away from and refrain from, the beloved Rasul ﷺ is reported to have said, there are two people upon whom Allah Azza wa Jal will not have mercy on the day of judgment. One who breaks ties with his relatives and a bad neighbor. Now, my dear viewers of Madani Channel, reflect that these two things are prevalent in our society today. Everyone is breaking ties. It is a common thing we see in society today. We see that the neighbors are fed up when they are neighbors with other Muslims. My dear viewers of Madani Channel, try to increase in the blessed character of the Prophet ﷺ in your lives. Try to bring it into your lives and make sure that the people around you are happy with you as well. In summary, today, my dear viewers of Madani Channel, today's episode was about the obedience of Allah Azza wa Jal and the beloved Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam. We have discussed the obedience of Allah Azza wa Jal and the obedience of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. In simple terms, is to do those things which they have commanded us to do, and to stay away from those things which they have told us to stay away from. May Allah Azza wa Jal give us all the ability to be truly obedient to Allah Azza wa Jal and the beloved Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Ameen bijahin Nabi al-Amin. Sallu ala al-Habib. Sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad. Sallallahu alayhi wasallam.
Passion for worship, 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 passion for worship.